Hello everyone, and welcome to the 15th episode of WONDERTALK, a series that accompanies a playthrough I'm doing on my Sith Inquisitor, but instead focuses on the lore, story, and background of my character. The roleplay stuff, not the story in-game. On the last episode of the playthrough, pretty much nothing happened in terms of Javiik's story, because we spent the time going around, getting all the datacrons we missed, mopping up a few side quests that we failed to get along the way, and of course getting the lore objects. Lots of lore reading today. But I would like your guys' help for what's coming up soon. Soon we will be heading to the planet of Balmorra. Long ago, when we first started recording this WONDERTALK series and you guys started to chime in with your ideas about what Javiik's background could be, we actually decided a few things about his mother. We know that she had at least mild force powers because she was able to sense that he had some, but didn't tell him quite yet. This is a comment from Cassandra from way back when, just to remind you. Maybe Javiik always had powers. Maybe he was born with them and his mother was hiding them to keep him safe. Now that they're so far apart, and maybe she's dead, her own weak force powers can't hide or suppress his powers. If it were my kid, I'd be heading out in the Outer Rim somewhere. I don't think any mom in her right mind would truly want to send her kid to the academy or have him noticed by a Sith. That's just gambling with the poor kid's life, with very, very poor odds. And if she could hide her own minor force powers, there's no reason for her not to try and hide his. So in Javiik's family's backstory, we know they lived on Alderaan, they were free traders and farmers, and they had more neutral trade ties with the Sith-aligned houses, including House Thule. And Javiik even served as a page in House Thule himself. And when they eventually left the planet, they were accidentally captured by the Sith and put into slavery, split up. Javiik went to Dromund Kaas, and that's about where his story starts. And Javiik's mother was sent to the shipyards of Balmorra. We don't really know what happened to her after that. We didn't even really decide how Javiik even knows that. Maybe he happened to hear it while in the slave pens. We don't know. It's not too important. We just know she's on Balmorra, and that is where we are going next. So before we hit there, let's talk a little bit more about his mom. We know she seems to be a very caring person. She took the time to try and hide her son's force powers and even fled her home to try and keep him safe. She didn't succeed, but she definitely tried. We know that although they probably weren't as rich as the nobles on Alderaan, they seemed to have a good trade business going. They had enough to have their own, at least small cargo ship. They had enough goods to pack up and take with them when they left, and enough fuel to get them somewhere, so they weren't poor. So we know a little bit about her that way. But we don't know much more about her than that. I'd love to invite you guys to help decide a little bit more about her. So feel free to post in the comments below the answers to any one or all of these questions. What do you think Javiik's mother's name should be? Their last name is Vutta, V-U-T-T-A, though it doesn't come up often, so that will likely be her last name too, unless you have an interesting reason why it shouldn't be. We've decided that minor Sith Inquisitor stories, spoilers, they are related to a certain Lord K, somewhere way back in their bloodline. Somewhere on the female bloodline was a female Cathar who Lord K liked very, very much enough to have a baby with, and then down the generations, all the way down to Javiik. So what's her last name? Does she have black fur like Javiik does? Or does she look entirely different? Maybe she has gray or orange or white or pale colored fur. And maybe the darkness got passed down from his dad. Is she really big like Javiik? More strong, kind of bulky kind of woman? Or was she slender and delicate and the size was an accident or came from his dad's side too? Does she have any stories or trauma or wonderful things that happened in her life? Or is she just pretty simple, grew up on Alderaan, farmer, trader, and that's really all there is to her story, and just kept those force powers quiet? What do you think her experiencing her force powers for the first time was like? We know that she's probably never strong enough to be a Jedi, and unless a Jedi got really close to her, they probably would never sense her. But she must have discovered she had them in some way. Javiik's discovery was a little more traumatic. She had a little more time to experiment on her own, I can imagine. What do you think her role in the family was? Did she take a strong interest in the farming and trading business? Or did she mostly step back and let her husband do the work? Did she act mostly as a mother to Javiik, or did she instead spend her time out and about on Alderaan doing the trading with the different houses? It's really fun when you're creating a new character. There's so many incredible questions that you can ask about them that just really gets the ball rolling. In this specific story, Mrs. Veda's role is to be Javik's mother. She's not going to be a main character of her own, but much like Javik's former master, who she is will have a strong effect on who Javiik will become. And I would absolutely love to hear about any ideas you have about Javik's mother in the comments below. I'll see you guys on the next episode of Wonder Talk.